What's going on, guys, and welcome to Rabbit's Used Cars, Easy Red Chair. Just today, I was sitting in the permit office here in the beautiful town of Greenville. I had a little dispute with a certain fire marshal that I had to get worked out. But anyway, who knew you couldn't sell racing gas fireworks out of one building? Dumb. Anyway, just kidding. Just classic cars. It got me thinking, I'm always thinking, what we're going to talk about this week, And I thought about the story a few weeks back. And actually, when we shot the brothel video, but I didn't want to hit you guys with two house videos back to back. So I go to the board of ideas in Matt's office. And whenever I think of a story, I always write the title to it first. That's how we go back a little inside. So not the house that I currently live, not the one with the whorehouse down the street, but the house I had before that. This house I bought from my father. I moved out when I was 20. I bought my very first house, 63 Falcon, sold it, down payment on my first house. I lived there, went through a nasty divorce, didn't feel like home anymore, didn't like it, so I sold it. I rented a little place just outside of town, and I was gonna build a new house. My parents, this was the first house they ever bought. Like, we went straight from the trailer park to this. And my uncle actually built the house new, 3,800 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, way overkill for one guy. My dad had it for sale. It was too cheap to hire a realtor. The house is on a cul-de-sac in a really quiet little neighborhood. So the only time you're going to drive down this street is if you're lost or a fucking mailman. Needless to say, a lot of people didn't see it. It was on the market for about 6 months. My dad calls him and said, listen, hey, Rob, I know you're building a house. How's that going? I said, we're just picking out house plans. It broke ground, bought a little lot, nothing big. He goes, well, I sell you this house. This is what I owe on it. Get it in your name, which was about 1/8 of what I was about to spend to build a house. I mean, it's kind of cool. I grew up in this house. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I thought about it. I called him the next day. I said, I won't do that. I want it. Move out of my house. My parents, they built a house on the lake, and of course that's where they lived. So I move in, and it was so funny, because keep in mind, like, this house was a huge bachelor pad from way back. No furniture. I had like a bedroom suite, period. I finally got a couch. I just started over, started fresh. And, we redid a lot of things. And a funny story while we're talking about this. So it was a split level house. So basically everything was upstairs you needed. And when you walked in the front door, you had a flight of steps coming upstairs, and you had a flight of steps that went downstairs. And so you had a big den and then a big garage to the right. When I was a little kid growing up in this house, I probably fell down those steps 20 times. Like, if you were anything more than a sprint down those steps, your ass was gonna go in your face every time. And my dad's like, God, you're so clumsy. God, you're so clumsy. Well, the house had pink carpet all the way through it, and navy blue walls, and brass light fixtures. This thing literally looked like it was designed by Liberace and Dolly Parton inside. And, big brass light fixtures and all this stuff. And I know my mom was gonna see this video. It was pretty, Rob. In 1988 it was. So anyway, what do? We get my buddies together. I get a few contractors in there. We rip all the floors out of it. This is an old house. I remember sneaking in back in the day, and like, you couldn't get away with nothing. You had to literally levitate to your room. I knew what steps made the most noise, so I would skip those steps. Thank God I have long legs. So I hired a guy to put 3/4 hardwoods through the entire house. Gorgeous, real hardwoods all the way through it. No squeaks, no pops, pretty, no pink carpet, most importantly. Well, you got the stairs. What are you gonna do there? I said, I want hardwood staircases. He goes, well, yeah, we could build you, redo staircases in hardwoods. He goes, we got a problem. He goes, these staircases don't meet code. Excuse me, this house was built in the 70s. He goes, these staircases don't meet code. I'm like, what do you mean they don't meet code? They're stairs. He goes, well, the top step is taller than the last step. He said, if you run down them, you're gonna fall down. Oh, really? Called my father up. You're an ass. Moving on. So he rips the staircase out. I have 2 new staircases put in the house. Now they're the same. Do all this. So I tell you that story. I had to tell you that, stop there to tell you the real part of this story. So we're getting the house where I like it. Repainted everything inside, redid a bunch of sheetrock, just making it mine. Pool table downstairs, huge game room, just everything. I'm just making just really pimping this place out. Like it was coming along. And I decided, because it just had a 2-car garage. Well, as you can see, a 2-car garage isn't going to work for me. And this is before the warehouse. I said, I want to build me a garage in my backyard. House had a huge backyard. I called my buddy that's a contractor, and he starts putting stakes out. And we've got like a 40 by 50 that we're going to build, brick siding to match the house. It's going to be nice. Well, next thing you know, old neighborhood watch walking around. What's those stakes in your backyard for? So building a garage, well, you can't do that. The hell you say? She said, it's against the covenants of the neighborhood. Now keep in mind, this is a really old established neighborhood, backs up to a golf course. And I don't know what it is with me living near golf courses, but anyway, but it backs up to a golf course. Huge backyard, building a garage that isn't tacky or anything, matches the house. I can't do it. And I said, well, I'd like to see these covenants. So she comes back and brings me like 6 pages of rules for this neighborhood that I've lived here my entire life and didn't even know existed. So I even called my dad up. I said, have you seen this bullshit? He said, yeah, I think I remember something about it back when we first moved in. I'm like, thanks for telling me. You can't build a hobby or storage garage in your backyard. You guys have been watching for a while, already know what's going to happen. I don't do well with being told no. I mean, you can coerce me into another idea, convince me that this is better, you're going to have a decent shot. It's a 50-50 at that point. When you say no, you're I don't give a damn. If I got to reinvent the wheel, I'm going to make this happen now for spite. So I get thinking about it. I'm smarter than this. Smart as neighborhood HOA. I mean, like how badass could they possibly be? It's bullshit. I didn't sign anything. I didn't know anything about it. And I come this close to going ahead and calling my buddy that does grading and let him just go ahead and kind of clear it off. And hell, just go ahead and pull the concrete slab down. What are you going to do? I mean, are they going to pick it in front of the house? They ain't going to make me bust it up. It's a lot easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. Hell, I didn't even know I had to ask for permission. Hell, I bought the damn house. They didn't. I mean, hell, if they co-signed with me or something, hell, I kind of understand it, but they didn't. And if I knew they had these dumb rules, which I probably would still bought the house, but just the way they approached me, you can't do that. The hell I can't. I mean, no. I started thinking about it. And I had another legal matter going on at the time. So I was talking to my good friend, Grant. Grant is the attorney that attorneys hire when you want to get shit done. Like if you're a doctor and you got a big malpractice suit, you best be calling Grant. He's that guy. He knows a way every time. I was talking to Grant. I said, you want to talk about a bunch of bullshit? I said, my community won't let me build a garage. He goes, Rob, run them covenants by my office. I'd like to look at them. Okie dokie. So, he's just riding downtown Greenville. Truck him off. Oh, let's go grab some lunch. He throws them on his desk. We go grab lunch. He calls me back. He goes, Rob. And I can envision him leaning back in his chair. He goes, I looked over these covenants. And no, you can't build a garage. You can't build a garage in your backyard. They got you 6 ways from sundown on that. But they messed up. And I think we got a bargaining chip. He goes, you guys have like HOA meetings? I said, yeah, they have them, but I've never been to one. He goes, we need to go to one. I said, really? He goes, yeah, we do. It was about 3 weeks later, we were having an HOA meeting. He said, you call me. He said, I'll make you a deal. You take me out to dinner and I'll go to the HOA meeting with you. We'll get you a garage built. The funny thing was, like, we come walking in like these 2 dudes, and it's all like husband and wife couples and stuff. And like we walk in, and Grant's got a suit on, all this stuff. And I look like me, and we walk in and we sit down and, they talk about the new street lights, or they talk about this, or they talk about the kids leaving their bicycles out, or they talk about that one neighbor that don't cut the grass and whatnot, which wasn't me, by the way. But speaking of cutting grass, which is another funny thing, my old neighborhood, there's a bunch of old people in the neighborhood. So I had my buddy, Jeff Caldwell, who owns, Caldwell Landscaping. Jeff is one of the funniest comedians ever. He was walking in my yard. They actually sent me an email saying, hey, there's a guy walking in your backyard. These people are watching me. Moving on. We're sitting in the HOA meeting. They're going over all the community business, whatnot. Is there any new business? Grant stands up and he goes, hi, my name is Grant Varner. I'm a local attorney and I'm representing my client here, Mr. Rob Pitts. First thing the guy said, he said, we're not in court. He said, this is just an HOA meeting. He goes, I understand that. He goes, I was reading through your covenants and someone told him he couldn't build a garage. He said, no, sir, no, you can't build a garage in this neighborhood behind your house. No hobby garages. He said, we don't want any mechanicking going on in this neighborhood. He said, well, he's not a mechanic. He said he needs somewhere to store his collector cars, his car collection at. And he goes, well, he can't do it here. And he said, well, I understand that. And I read your covenants through and through. He said, but I did see one thing in here. And it's like, one thing, what do you mean? So he pulls out those covenants I brought to him and folds it over. And it says he could have a modular storage building or a modular building. And it had a slash there. Modular building storage unit that matches the house. Yeah, he said, a lawnmower shed, something like that. He goes, well, it don't say lawnmower shed. It says modular building storage unit. And I'll tell you the first thing that pops in my mind that's a modular building, keep in mind, Rob's got a pretty big backyard. We could put 3 single wide trailers back there. That's a modular building. Matter of fact, it even says it on the description of it. It's modular. And we could just stick those in the backyard. And he said, I'll be honest with you, we could probably sub them out. Maybe do like an Airbnb thing. Hell, have a little fun with it. Well, you can't put it doesn't say in the covenants we couldn't put a single wide trailer. He said, well, these are single family homes. He said, I didn't say we were going to rent them out like that. No, sir. Maybe Rob wants to bring some relatives, live in the backyard in single wide trailers because you won't let them build a garage there. Well, you can't do that. He said, well, your rule says, actually, he can't do that. There's no size restrictions, no limits. There's actually nothing there. You kind of left yourself open for this. Would you rather him build a nice garage that matches his house, is going to up the property value? Or we're going to bring it down with some nice single wide trailers that are painted to match his house? And he goes, well, there's always exceptions to things, and I think if we seen some plans, we'd feel a little better about it. Boy, the time we walked out of that HOA meeting, man, they were patting me on the back and like, we'll get this worked out. Everything's going to be fine. There's no sense in bringing him back. It's no big deal at all. And I ended up not building a garage. I actually ended up selling the house and moving before I did anything. And now I definitely don't need one. But actually, I do need more storage space because that's why I got cars on lifts right now, because storage, we're already running out of room here at the warehouse. But, I think back about that. And Grant, like I said, has always been, childhood friend. I've known Grant for years, and I love his approach to things. Keep that in mind next time they tell you no. Guys, we'll catch you next time at Rabbit's Used Cars. Oh. All ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Why they kicked us off the choir, I have no idea.
I don't believe you.
Can you hear me? It goes back to back. So, mix it up a little bit. That's me mixing. Keep that in mind. Now I'm laughing.